Have you ever wondered why some people seem to make tiny changes and suddenly become unstoppable? Like how just brushing your teeth leads to a confident smile, or writing a page a day turns into a best-selling book? Welcome to Zuzu, the book reader, where we dig into books that can change your life. Today, we dive into a modern classic that could rewire how you think about progress and change, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Here are just a few reasons to stay till the end. Discover why tiny 1% improvements make a 37x impact over time. Learn how identity, not motivation, drives long-term behavior. See why goals might actually be holding you back. Unlock the 4 laws of behavior change to make habits that stick. And get the secret behind how Olympic gold was won one small tweak at a time. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. The Surprising Power of Atomic Habits. This chapter kicks off with the story of British cycling, a team that was stuck in a century-long rut. They couldn't win races until Dave Brailsford took over and implemented a philosophy he called the aggregation of marginal gains, making 1% improvements in every area. From heated shorts to the exact pillow for each rider, these micro-improvements led to Olympic dominance and multiple Tour de France wins. James Clear uses this example to highlight the compound effect of habits. Just like money grows through compound interest, habits multiply their impact over time. Getting 1% better every day makes you 37 times better after a year. Conversely, 1% worse each day can take you to 0. The key insight? Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Success is not the result of one big event, but of thousands of tiny improvements made consistently over time. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. People often fail not because they lack motivation, but because they have the wrong system. Goals are great for direction, but systems are what keep you moving. This book will show how to build those systems. Special bonus for aspiring entrepreneurs. If you're someone who wants to launch a business, we have something just for you. Entrepreneur's Launch Kit, a practical guide to making your first $10,000. This isn't just theory. It's 11 powerful mini-courses with tutorials that walk you step by step into real income. From launching a faceless YouTube channel that makes $1,000 a month, to building an AI agency from zero, to getting your first high-ticket clients in just 14 days. This guide has you covered. People have started earning from day 3, some hitting $2,000 a week in under a month. Why not you? Download your copy here, Entrepreneur's Launch Kit, also linked in the description, bio, and comments. Start your business today. Chapter 2. How your habits shape your identity, and vice versa. Why is it so easy to fall back into bad habits, and so hard to form good ones? James Clear opens this chapter by revealing a powerful truth. The reason most people fail to build better habits is because they focus on what they want to achieve instead of who they wish to become. There are 3 layers of behavior change: outcomes, the results, like losing weight or writing a book; processes, the systems and habits that get you there; identity, your beliefs about yourself. Most people start at the outer layer, focusing on goals. But true transformation happens when you work from the inside out. Want to become a runner? Don't just try to run every morning. Start by telling yourself, I am a runner. That identity shift reinforces the habit and makes it stick. Here's a big idea. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Skipping the gym might not seem like a big deal, but if your goal is to become a healthy person, every skipped session is a vote against that identity. On the flip side, every small win, like choosing a salad over fries, is a vote for that new version of you. Habits aren't just about getting better results. They're about reinforcing your identity. You don't need to believe in big overnight change. Instead, focus on becoming the kind of person who consistently shows up, even in small ways. When you start with identity, your habits become natural. You don't have to force yourself to write. You just write because you're a writer. You don't have to fight your way to the gym. You just go because that's who you are. Would you rather be someone who hits goals once in a while, or someone who lives the lifestyle that naturally creates those wins? Chapter 3: How to Build Better Habits in 4 Simple Steps. This chapter introduces the foundation of the entire book, a practical, science-backed model for how habits actually work. James Clear breaks habits into a simple 4-step loop: cue, craving, response, and reward. Let's break that down. Cue is the trigger that initiates a behavior. It could be waking up, seeing your phone, or hearing a notification. Craving is the motivation or desire behind the habit. You don't crave brushing your teeth. You crave the clean feeling it gives. Response is the actual habit itself, the action you take. Reward is the benefit you get. It satisfies the craving and teaches your brain that this habit is worth repeating. These 4 steps form the building blocks of every habit, good or bad. Understanding them gives you the power to take control. You can start designing better habits and dismantling harmful ones. Clear introduces the 4 laws of behavior change, which we'll explore in depth in upcoming chapters. Make it obvious. Design clear cues for your habits. Make it attractive. Link habits to positive emotions and motivations. Make it easy. Reduce friction and simplify the process. Make it satisfying. Reward yourself to reinforce the habit. This system isn't just theory. It's built on psychology, neuroscience, and real-world testing. And it works because it aligns with how our brains naturally form habits. One key takeaway: if a habit doesn't satisfy all 4 steps, it probably won't stick. For example, if it's not obvious, you'll forget. If it's not attractive, you won't feel motivated. If it's too hard, you'll give up. And if it's not satisfying, you won't do it again. So the secret to better habits? Reverse engineer them using the 4 laws. Want to drink more water? Put a bottle on your desk. Cue. Add lemon to make it enjoyable. Craving. Use a simple bottle with a straw. Response. And check off a habit tracker. Reward. If you could build any new habit starting today, what would it be? And how could you make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying? Chapter 4: The Man Who Didn't Look Right. Chapter 4 kicks off the first of the 4 laws of behavior change: make it obvious. James Clear starts with a gripping story about a woman who sensed her husband was having a stroke, not because of any dramatic symptom, but because he just didn't look right. Her intuition picked up on subtle changes: his posture, the way he was holding his body, the odd silence. This example proves how powerful our brains are at recognizing patterns, even subconsciously. This chapter emphasizes the idea that we often repeat habits not because we consciously decide to, but because our brains are trained to respond automatically to environmental cues. Our habits begin with a cue, and if we don't notice the cue, the habit doesn't happen. So step 1 in building good habits is becoming aware of the ones we already have. Clear suggests using a method called habit scoring. Write down all your daily habits and label them as positive, negative, or neutral. This self-awareness exercise is like shining a spotlight on your behavior. You can't change what you don't notice. Then, Clear introduces the habit stacking technique, linking a new habit to an old one. For example, after I brush my teeth, I'll meditate for 1 minute. After I pour my morning coffee, I'll write my to-do list. This strategy works because your existing habits already have built-in cues. By stacking new behaviors onto them, you eliminate the need for motivation. It becomes automatic. Another powerful method discussed is implementation intentions. Instead of vague goals like, I want to work out, you decide when and where. For example, I will go for a run at 6 a.m. in the park. These 2 strategies, habit stacking and clear intentions, help you create cues that are obvious and reliable. When you make your habits visible and easy to trigger, your chances of success skyrocket. What's one habit you could stack onto something you already do every day? Chapter 5. The Best Way to Start a New Habit. In Chapter 5, James Clear dives deeper into the first law, make it obvious, by giving us a strategy that's both simple and powerful. Use your environment as a trigger. Our surroundings shape our behavior more than we realize. For example, if a bowl of apples is placed on the kitchen counter, you're far more likely to eat fruit than if it's hidden away. If your yoga mat is already unrolled on the floor, you're much more likely to stretch. Clear explains that environment design is a silent driver behind all successful habits. Instead of relying on willpower and motivation, shape your environment so that the desired habit becomes the default action. Want to read more books? Place one on your pillow every morning. Want to drink more water? Keep a glass on your desk. This chapter also teaches you how to reduce the visibility of bad habits. Want to stop scrolling social media? Delete the app from your home screen or place your phone in another room. Out of sight, out of mind. The key lesson here is, you don't need more discipline. You need better design. The people who stick to good habits aren't necessarily more motivated. They've just made their environment work for them, not against them. Another helpful tip is context-dependent memory. Your brain associates certain behaviors with specific spaces. That's why it's better to separate environments by purpose. Don't watch Netflix in your workspace. Don't bring your phone to bed. One space, one purpose. By mastering your environment, you make the cues for good habits obvious and the cues for bad habits invisible. If someone walked into your room, could they tell what habits you're trying to build? Chapter 6. Motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. We like to think that the people who succeed have more motivation, more willpower, more hustle. But James Clear debunks that myth right away in this chapter. The real key to consistent habits? Environment design. Motivation can get you started, but it won't keep you going. Motivation is fickle, and discipline fades. What truly drives long-term behavior is making good choices the easy choices. And that's where your surroundings come in. Clear shares examples from psychology and real-world studies that prove just how powerful subtle cues can be. In one experiment, a hospital cafeteria boosted water consumption just by rearranging how drinks were displayed. No lectures, no price changes. Just placing bottled water in more visible spots led to a healthy shift in behavior. So, how can you apply this to your life? Want to work out in the morning? Lay your gym clothes out the night before? Want to drink more water? Keep a glass on your desk? Want to eat healthier? Put fruit on your counter and hide the chips. The idea is simple. Make the cues for good habits obvious and make bad habits invisible. The more friction you add to a bad habit, the less likely you are to do it. Want to watch less TV? Take the batteries out of the remote. Want to spend less time on your phone? Leave it in another room. Design your space so that the good behaviors are the default. It's not about forcing change, it's about making it natural. Your environment is like an invisible hand that shapes your behavior every day. Once you learn to control it, you're no longer at the mercy of motivation. You create a lifestyle where success becomes automatic. Look around your space right now. Is it helping or hurting the habits you're trying to build? Chapter 7. The Secret to Self-Control. We often admire people with strong self-control. Those who never eat junk food, always stick to their gym routine, or never scroll endlessly on their phones. But James Clear shares something surprising in this chapter. The people with the best self-control rarely use it. Instead, they're the masters of avoiding temptation altogether. The secret isn't about fighting temptation. It's about never putting yourself in a position to fight it in the first place. Clear revisits a powerful case study. During the Vietnam War, many American soldiers became addicted to heroin. Yet, when they returned home, most of them quit almost instantly. Why? Their environment changed. The triggers and cues that led to heroin use in Vietnam were gone. This story proves a key point. You don't have to be stronger. You just have to be smarter. You have to remove the cues that lead to bad habits. The best strategy isn't willpower. It's avoiding the fight altogether. Want to stop snacking late at night? Don't buy junk food. Want to focus better at work? Use website blockers and turn off notifications. Want to stop checking your phone first thing in the morning? Charge it in another room. This chapter emphasizes that every behavior is driven by a cue. If you eliminate the cue, the habit never starts. That's the foundation of true self-control. Rather than struggling with temptation day after day, design your life to avoid it. Make the right choice, the easy choice, and make the wrong choice invisible. You don't need to win every battle. You just need to reduce how often you're in the arena. What's one temptation you could eliminate from your environment today to make life easier? Chapter 8. How to Make a Habit Irresistible. In this chapter, James Clear introduces the second law of behavior change. Make it attractive. He begins with a fascinating insight into how our brains actually crave habits, not because of the reward itself, but because of the anticipation of that reward. This anticipation is powered by dopamine, the chemical responsible for pleasure and motivation. What's amazing is that dopamine spikes before we act, not after. That means we're not just driven by rewards, we're driven by the promise of them. To build better habits, we need to harness that power. Clear offers a technique called temptation bundling, pairing something you need to do with something you want to do. For example, only watch your favorite show while doing household chores. Only enjoy your morning coffee after writing in your journal. Only listen to your favorite podcast when you're at the gym. This strategy transforms necessary but dull tasks into more appealing routines. It rewires your brain to want to perform the habit because it knows something good comes with it. Clear also explains the role of culture. We tend to imitate three groups: the close, family and friends; the many, peer groups; the powerful, those we admire. So if you want to build better habits, surround yourself with people who already live the way you want to live. If everyone around you is disciplined, creative, or healthy, you're more likely to adopt those traits too. When you make your habits attractive, either by pairing them with pleasure or aligning them with the values of your tribe, you unlock a deeper level of consistency. What's one habit you could make irresistible by bundling it with something you already enjoy? Chapter 9. The Role of Family and Friends in Shaping Your Habits. In Chapter 9, James Clear dives into how social norms influence nearly every habit we form. Whether we realize it or not, the people around us shape our behavior more than logic, reason, or even personal desire. He explains that we naturally imitate the habits of three groups: the close, family and friends; the many, peer groups and communities; the powerful, those we admire or envy. If you're surrounded by people who value fitness, you're more likely to work out. If your circle eats fast food every day, that's what feels normal to you. We want to fit in, we want to belong, and so we adapt our behavior, often subconsciously. This chapter emphasizes that belonging often trumps behavior change. If a habit conflicts with the culture of your group, you'll have a hard time sticking with it. But if the habit aligns with group norms, it becomes easy, even automatic. That's why one of the fastest ways to change your habits is to join a group where your desired behavior is the norm. Want to read more? Join a book club. Want to build a business? Surround yourself with entrepreneurs. Want to meditate daily? Connect with others who do the same. Clear also discusses how the strongest habits are those that reinforce your identity and strengthen your connection with others. When a habit becomes part of your shared identity, it stops being something you do. It becomes who you are socially. So if you're struggling to change, take a look around. Your environment isn't just physical, it's social. And it might be time to upgrade the people you spend the most time with. Who are the people influencing your habits every day? And are they pushing you forward or pulling you back? Chapter 10: How to Find and Fix the Causes of Your Bad Habits. In this chapter, James Clear gives us a powerful tool for breaking bad habits, not by fighting them head-on, but by understanding why they exist in the first place. Every habit is an attempt to solve a problem. You feel stressed, so you scroll on your phone. You feel anxious, so you bite your nails. You feel bored, so you snack. These are all examples of your brain trying to soothe discomfort with a behavior that brings quick relief. So if you want to break a bad habit, the first step isn't discipline, it's awareness. You need to figure out what cue triggers the habit. What craving is your brain trying to satisfy? What are you really trying to escape or fix? Clear explains that bad habits are often formed because they offer immediate relief, even if the long-term consequences are negative. The trick is to identify the underlying need and then find a better, healthier way to satisfy it. For example, instead of checking your phone when bored, plan a quick creative task or walk. Instead of stress eating, take 10 deep breaths or journal your thoughts. Instead of procrastinating on big tasks, break them into tiny wins to get started. He also introduces the idea of reframing your habits. Don't think of quitting a bad habit as losing something. Think of it as freeing yourself from a behavior that no longer serves you. By addressing the real cause behind the habit and replacing the behavior with something just as satisfying, you can break the loop for good. The more you understand the why behind your habits, the easier it is to change the what. What's one bad habit you have, and what feeling or situation usually comes right before it? Chapter 11: Walk slowly, but never backward. Chapter 11 marks the beginning of the third law of behavior change: make it easy. Here, James Clear makes a simple but crucial point. The most effective way to build a habit is to focus on repetition, not perfection. We often wait for the perfect moment to start, or feel like we need to plan everything before taking action. But in truth, habits are built by doing, not by thinking. He shares the story of a photography class where students were split into two groups. One group was graded purely on the quantity of photos they took, the other on the quality of a single perfect photo. Who took the best pictures? The quantity group. Why? Because by taking lots of shots, they improved through practice. The quality group spent all their time planning, not doing. Clear's lesson: motion is not the same as action. Planning, thinking, and strategizing feel productive, but they don't create results. You build habits by taking action, even if it's small, even if it's messy. That's why he introduces the concept of the 2-minute rule. Any new habit should take less than 2 minutes to start. Want to journal? Just write one sentence. Want to read more? Just open the book. By lowering the barrier to entry, you make it easy to show up. And showing up is the foundation of consistency. Once you're in motion, the habit can naturally expand. Clear reminds us that every action is a vote for the type of person you want to become. And you don't need to win by a landslide. Just keep voting. Progress comes from doing things consistently, not doing things perfectly. So even if you're walking slowly, just make sure you're not walking backward. What's one habit you could start today that takes 2 minutes or less? Chapter 12: The Law of Least Effort. In Chapter 12, James Clear explores a fundamental truth about human nature. We naturally gravitate toward the path of least resistance. This is why the third law of behavior change, make it easy, is so effective. If something is easier to do, we're more likely to do it. Clear emphasizes that success doesn't come from doing the hardest thing. It comes from doing the easiest thing consistently. The more friction there is between you and a habit, the less likely it is to stick. So, if you want to make good habits automatic, you need to reduce friction wherever possible. Here are a few examples he gives. Want to eat healthy? Chop your veggies in advance so they're ready to go. Want to read more? Place a book on your pillow every morning. Want to practice guitar? Keep it on a stand in the middle of your room. He introduces the idea of decisive moments. These are small choices that set the course of your entire day. Opening your phone versus opening your journal. walking into the kitchen versus walking outside. Each decisive moment puts you on a trajectory. If you can optimize those tiny decisions, the rest becomes easier. Clear also talks about automation. By setting up your environment or using technology, you can lock in good behaviors with minimal ongoing effort. For example, use automatic savings transfers to build wealth. Set recurring grocery deliveries to keep healthy food at home. Schedule workouts or coaching sessions in advance. When you make good habits easy and frictionless, and make bad habits hard and inconvenient, you shift the odds massively in your favor. Your brain is always looking for the easy route. So instead of fighting it, design your life to work with it. Where in your day could you remove just a little friction to make a good habit easier? Chapter 13: How to Stop Procrastinating by Using the 2-Minute Rule. In this chapter, James Clear doubles down on a key idea from the last few chapters. Make your habits so easy, you can't say no. And the best way to do that? The 2-minute rule. The rule is simple. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. The logic is brilliant. Rather than setting big, intimidating goals like write a book, start with write 1 sentence. Instead of run 5 miles, start with put on your running shoes. Why? Because habits are built by showing up consistently, not by achieving perfection. The 2-minute rule helps you overcome inertia, the biggest barrier to any habit. Starting is the hardest part. Once you're in motion, it's much easier to keep going. Clear gives examples like fold 1 pair of socks instead of clean the house. Open your notes app instead of plan your startup. Read 1 paragraph instead of read 30 pages. These aren't just tricks. They're strategies to train your brain to trust the habit-building process. Once the habit becomes part of your identity, you can naturally scale it. He reminds us, a habit must be established before it can be improved. Trying to optimize too early can backfire. Instead, your only goal at the beginning should be to show up, again and again. The 2-minute rule works because it respects your brain's resistance to change. But it also respects momentum, the most powerful force in habit formation. So whether it's health, business, learning, or creativity, start small, stay consistent, and watch the compound effect take over. What's one big habit you've been putting off, and how could you shrink it down to just 2 minutes today? Chapter 14: How to Make Good Habits Inevitable and Bad Habits Impossible. In Chapter 14, James Clear reveals how to take the guesswork out of habit formation. Instead of relying on motivation or willpower, he introduces tools that make good habits nearly automatic and bad habits almost impossible. The key idea here is to use commitment devices. These are choices you make in the present that lock in your future behavior. They take advantage of the fact that it's easier to make smart decisions for your future self than it is in the heat of the moment. For example, want to save money? Set up automatic transfers to your savings account. Want to watch less TV? Unplug the TV and store the remote in another room. Want to go to the gym? Sign up for a non-refundable class in advance. One powerful commitment device is the habit contract. This is a written agreement that outlines what you'll do and what the consequence is if you don't. It can be as simple as telling a friend, if I don't go to the gym 3 times this week, I'll send you 1,000 rupees. These agreements bring accountability, which adds just enough pressure to follow through. You're not just making a promise to yourself, you're making it public. Another effective strategy is to increase friction for bad habits. Make them inconvenient, delete apps, cancel subscriptions, hide junk food, or keep your credit card out of reach. The harder it is to perform a bad habit, the less likely you are to do it. Likewise, reduce friction for good habits. Keep your workspace tidy, preload your to-do list, set reminders that nudge you at the right time. Design your environment so that the path of least resistance leads to progress. Success becomes inevitable when the systems around you leave no room for failure. What's one small commitment you could make today that would lock in a habit you've been trying to build? Chapter 15: The cardinal rule of behavior. Change. Chapter 15 marks the beginning of the fourth law of behavior change: make it satisfying. Here, James Clear introduces one of the most powerful principles in habit formation. We repeat actions that feel good. If a behavior is immediately rewarding, we're much more likely to do it again. If it feels bad or neutral, it likely fades away. Unfortunately, this is also why bad habits are so sticky. They offer instant gratification. Think about eating a donut or scrolling through Instagram. These actions feel good now, even if they hurt you later. Good habits, on the other hand, often come with delayed rewards. Going to the gym doesn't give you a six-pack today. Investing doesn't make you rich overnight. So how do we make good habits satisfying enough to stick? Clear's solution: add immediate reinforcement to your positive behaviors. He shares practical strategies like using a habit tracker to visually celebrate your progress, giving yourself a small treat or high five after completing a task, putting an X on a calendar each day you follow through. The key is to associate your habit with a feeling of success, even if it's symbolic. Our brains are wired to chase pleasure, so if you can make a habit feel good in the moment, your brain will want to do it again tomorrow. He also introduces the idea of don't break the chain. The more consistent your streak, the stronger your desire to keep it going. This visual momentum turns discipline into motivation. Ultimately, Clear reminds us, what is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided. So if you want your habits to last, don't just focus on long-term outcomes. Make them satisfying today. What's one reward you could attach to a habit you're trying to build so your brain starts loving it right away? Chapter 16. How to stick with good habits. Every day. In Chapter 16, James Clear shares how to make habits stick by introducing a simple but powerful tool: habit tracking. This method helps you stay consistent by providing a visual cue of your progress, and our brains love visual progress. When you track a habit, even with something as basic as checking a box or crossing off a day on the calendar, it feels rewarding. That tiny celebration reinforces your identity and builds momentum. The more consistent the streak, the more motivated you are to keep it going. Clear reminds us of the mantra, don't break the chain. This simple idea creates a psychological commitment. Once you have a few days in a row, you naturally want to continue. And when you do slip up, because we all do, he introduces another key concept. Never miss twice. Missing once is a mistake. Missing twice is the start of a new habit in the wrong direction. Tracking your habits has multiple benefits. It gives immediate satisfaction. It reinforces your identity as someone who follows through. It keeps you accountable. You can track with a journal, an app, or a simple calendar. The format doesn't matter. What matters is consistency. Clear also warns against perfectionism. Tracking isn't about being flawless. It's about being aware. Even a small win, like writing one sentence or doing 5 push-ups, counts. It's a vote for your future self. By making your progress visible, you give your brain the signal. This matters. That little check mark or crossed-out square becomes a powerful motivator that keeps you moving forward. What's one habit you could start tracking today? And how would you feel seeing a week-long streak staring back at you? Chapter 17. How an accountability partner can change everything. In this chapter, James Clear introduces a powerful principle that can supercharge your consistency: accountability. When you know someone is watching, or when there's a consequence for skipping a habit, you're far more likely to follow through. It's human nature. We want to be seen as reliable, we want to keep our word, and we don't want to let others down. Clear encourages readers to use accountability partners and habit contracts to stay on track. These tools add a layer of social pressure and consequence that keeps your behavior in check. Here's how it works. An accountability partner is someone you check in with regularly. You tell them your goal, and they make sure you're sticking to it. A habit contract is a written agreement where you commit to a habit and define the consequence if you fail. For example, if I miss a workout, I'll pay 1,000 rupees to my friend. This works because it activates your emotions. You're no longer just breaking a promise to yourself, you're breaking it publicly. He also highlights how visibility breeds performance. Think of athletes, performers, or students. When someone is watching, we show up better. Even small public commitments, like sharing your progress on social media or joining a group challenge, can elevate your focus. And remember, it doesn't need to be dramatic. A simple check-in message or a casual agreement with a friend can be enough to keep your momentum alive. By creating external structure around your habit, you give yourself fewer escape routes and more motivation to stay consistent. Who could be your accountability partner? Someone you trust to support your growth and hold you to your word? Chapter 18: The Truth About Talent, When Genes Matter and When They Don't. In Chapter 18, James Clear explores the role of genetics and natural ability in habit formation and long-term success. His message is simple: your genes don't determine your destiny, but they do help you play to your strengths. We all have natural inclinations. Some people are analytical, others are creative, some are competitive, others more collaborative. Clear emphasizes that the most successful habits are the ones aligned with your personality and biology. Trying to force a habit that goes completely against your nature makes it harder to stick with. For example, if you're an introvert, solo workouts like running might suit you better than group fitness classes. If you're a night owl, don't force yourself into a 5 a.m. morning routine. Design habits around your peak hours. The takeaway here is not to use genetics as an excuse, but rather as a guide. Find what fits you. Build habits that feel natural. This reduces friction and increases consistency. Clear introduces the idea of explore and exploit. Experiment with different approaches until you find something that clicks. Once you do, go all in. When your habits align with your strengths, it doesn't feel like effort. It feels like flow. He also reminds us of the Goldilocks rule, which he expands more on in the next chapter. We stay most motivated when a task is just at the edge of our abilities, not too easy, not too hard. So while talent can offer a head start, it's consistency that builds excellence. You don't need to be the best. You just need to find the best path for you. What's one habit or goal that feels natural to you, and how can you lean into it even more? Chapter 19: The Goldilocks Rule, How to Stay Motivated in Life and Work. In Chapter 19, James Clear introduces a simple but powerful concept for staying motivated: the Goldilocks Rule. According to this rule, humans experience peak motivation when they work on tasks that are just the right level of difficulty, not too easy, not too hard. Think of a video game. If it's too simple, you get bored. If it's impossibly hard, you give up. But if the challenge is just a little beyond your current skill level, you enter a zone of intense focus and engagement. This is called the flow state, where you lose track of time because you're so absorbed in the task. Clear explains that the same rule applies to habits. If your habits are too easy, they won't challenge or excite you. If they're too hard, you'll avoid them. But when they hit the sweet spot, they become addictive in the best way. He encourages us to constantly adjust the difficulty of our habits to stay engaged. Once a habit becomes automatic, push it slightly further. If you're reading 1 page a day, go to 2. If you're walking 10 minutes, try 12. If you're writing a journal, add a new prompt. This continual stretch keeps your brain alert and invested. It also reinforces the identity you're building. Not just someone who shows up, but someone who improves. Clear also touches on setbacks and plateaus. Motivation dips when progress slows. That's why it's essential to build habits that you enjoy, not just ones that deliver results. Joy creates resilience. When the work itself feels rewarding, you stick with it even when growth stalls. So if you want to stay motivated, find your Goldilocks zone, the point where the task is hard enough to matter, but easy enough to manage. What's one habit you could slightly stretch today to re-engage your focus and motivation? Chapter 20. The Downside of Creating Good Habits. In Chapter 20, James Clear reminds us that while good habits are powerful tools for growth, they come with an unexpected downside. They can make us complacent. Once a habit becomes automatic, it's easy to switch off. You might go to the gym but stop pushing yourself. You might write every day but stop improving your style. When the behavior becomes routine, the brain conserves energy. But that also means you might stop progressing. Clear calls this the plateau of latent potential, the phase where you've developed a habit but are no longer getting better at it. The danger is falling into autopilot and assuming that showing up is enough. To combat this, he encourages something he calls deliberate practice. This means reflecting on your performance, seeking feedback, setting stretch goals that challenge your skill level. Think of elite athletes, artists, or entrepreneurs. They don't just repeat their routines, they refine them. They look for tiny tweaks, small improvements, better techniques. That's how they rise above the crowd. Clear also warns about habit creep, where your system becomes bloated with too many routines. This can lead to burnout. His advice? Focus on a few habits that matter most and revisit them regularly. The ultimate goal of a habit isn't just consistency, it's mastery. And mastery requires attention, feedback, and thoughtful improvement. So yes, habits build a strong foundation. But don't forget to challenge that foundation, or it will slowly decay. Are there any habits in your life that feel too automatic and could use a fresh challenge or upgrade? Chapter 21. How to go from being merely good to being truly great. In the final chapter, James Clear ties everything together by asking one powerful question: how do you move from being consistent to being excellent? The answer lies in embracing the idea of continuous refinement. Good habits help you show up. Great habits help you evolve. And the secret to greatness isn't intensity, it's consistency plus reflection. Clear explains that professionals and high performers don't just repeat their routines. They review, adjust, and improve them. They seek feedback. They track their progress. They ask, how can I make this 1% better? Every step of the way. He introduces the idea of identity-based habits once more, emphasizing that your habits reinforce who you believe you are. But as you grow, your identity should evolve too. Don't get stuck being a runner or a writer if it keeps you from exploring other strengths. Stay flexible. Keep building. He also reminds us of the Goldilocks rule. The best way to stay engaged is to work at the edge of your ability. Just enough challenge to keep you interested, just enough ease to avoid burnout. Ultimately, the path to being great is not glamorous. It's about boring, repetitive improvement. It's about building strong systems and returning to them every day, even when you're not inspired. Because the goal isn't perfection, the goal is mastery. And mastery is a journey, not a destination. So here's the final question to carry with you. What system will you keep improving day by day, so the person you want to become isn't just a dream, but a reality? And that's a wrap on Atomic Habits by James Clear, one of the most practical, powerful books ever written on how tiny changes lead to massive results. Remember, it's not about doing more, it's about doing better, one small step at a time. So what's your 1% today? Which habit will you start or restart after watching this? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one and I'd love to cheer you on. If this video helped you see habits in a whole new way, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to Zuzu, the book reader, where powerful ideas meet playful storytelling. And hey, if you're dreaming about starting a business, building your brand, or creating digital income, check out the Entrepreneur's Launch Kit in the description. It's packed with step-by-step tools to help you hit your first $10,000 from scratch. Thanks for watching. Keep growing, keep showing up, and I'll see you in the next summary.